Hello world and welcome back to another Immersive Engineering tutorial where we're going to be covering all over the different turrets we have in the game, the chemical thrower, some upgrades for the revolver which I missed in the previous episode, as well as how to make biodiesel. So starting off, you're probably going to want to know how to actually power your mining drill and your buzzsaw from the previous episode, and we make this by using biodiesel. You can also use regular diesel, but we're going to be showing off biodiesel today. In order to make biodiesel, you're going to need 3 machines. You're going to need the refinery, which needs 2 ingredients, and to make those ingredients, you're going to need the squeezer and the fermenter. We're going to go over the fermenter first. The fermenter is going to require 6 different types of blocks. We're going to require some steel scaffoldings, light engineering blocks, some regular old Minecraft cauldrons, some fluid pipes, iron sheet metal, and the redstone engineering block. To build your fermenter, you'll be making a 3D structure just like this. You can obviously use the projector in order to make it. In order to activate it, you take your hammer and then right click on your center cauldron in between your redstone engineering block and light engineering block. Right click there and it turns into the fermenter. Looking at the fermenter, it's going to need a couple of things. On the top here, we're going to need our power supply. We are using creative power just for this. And on the back, you're going to have your inputs. We have a blue input point just here, and there is also one on the back. So there's 2 inputs on this machine, one on the back and one on the side, and then on the front here we see we have an orange output. This is just going straight into a tank, and that is what is going to make ourselves some ethanol. You can also get an export out of this orange tank here as well, so it's either or 2 inputs and 2 outputs. You have a little red button here as well. The red button is a way of turning your machine on and off if you so wish with a lever. To apply your lever, simply shift and right click with the lever and it will put it in an off state. Now, when the lever is in an off state, the machine is still actually running. You have to apply a redstone signal in order to turn the machine off. Right clicking and looking inside, we can see that I've got this filled with sugarcane, because sugarcane is one of the ingredients that you can make ethanol with. Now there are many different types of things you can use. There are 4 in total, and each will give you a different amount of millibuckets of ethanol per process. So melon slices will give you 20 millibuckets, sugarcane 80, potatoes will also give you 80, and apples will give you 80. These are the only 4 different types that works work, and emphasis on melon slices. It cannot be a full melon. So simply just put it onto the input, and then it will turn it into ethanol and will go into the output. Now, if you so wish, you can also just take a bucket, put it in the blue bit, and then put it into the orange, and it will make a bucket of ethanol. Moving on, we now have the squeezer. The squeezer is very similar to the fermenter, but this time it's going to make plant oil instead of ethanol. This is, however, going to require some slightly different resources, such as a piston and some steel fences. Besides that, you're still going to need some steel scaffolding, light engineering blocks, redstone engineering blocks, and some fluid pipes, as well as you're going to need some barrels as well, some Immersive Engineering wooden barrels. Once built, the squeezer is going to look something like this, and something to note is that the piston must be facing looking down. It can't just be placed, it has to be facing down. And to activate, again, you're going to go in between the light engineering block and the redstone engineering block and click on the barrel. This is going to activate your squeezer. Now the squeezer acts very similarly to the fermenter. You're going to have a power supply which is going to be on the top here, and you have 2 inputs, one on this side and one on the back, as well as 2 outputs here, one on the top here and then one down on the side. As well as that, you can also put a lever on here as well, same as the fermenter, in order to turn it off, and inside is going to look exactly the same. You're going to put this time seeds into the side here. It's going to make you some plant oil, and you can again put buckets or some sort of tank inside of here in order to take some of your plant oil out if you so wish. Now, what sort of things can we put in here? We can put in now melon seeds for 20 millibuckets, pumpkin seeds for 40 millibuckets, beetroot seeds for 60 millibuckets, and wheat seeds for 80 millibuckets. But the best one is definitely going to be using industrial hemp seeds, which give you 120 millibuckets per seed. So you'll be able to get a lot of plant oil very quickly. Now it's time to actually figure out what we need to do with the plant oil and ethanol, and this is where the refinery gets involved. We're going to be using all the same resources here, except this actually requires some heavy engineering blocks as well. You'll be making a structure very similarly to this, again be using the projector in order to create it, and note that the heavy engineering blocks is going to be the front. To activate, you want to right click on this heavy engineering block at the front in order to make your refinery appear. Now the refinery has to be configured in a very specific way. You have only one power point at the top here at the back, as you see, and then you have your 2 inputs. You have one input on the left, as you can see here, and one input on the right. These can only be inputs, of course. Now it doesn't matter which side you have your plant oil, which side you have your ethanol in, but they just cannot mix. Inside of here you can see that it's done from left to right, which is a little bit annoying. It should really go to middle, similar to mechanism, but that's the way it works. We have plant oil coming in on the left here, I believe, yes, and we have ethanol on the right. Inside of here, they are going to mix together and then make ourselves some biodiesel. Now, as you can see, you can take out each different ones if you so wish, and then out the front we'll have our biodiesel pumping out. As you can see, we just have it into a tank. This is now where we would take our jerry can, fill it up with our biodiesel, and this is now how we can fill up our mining drill, as you can see here, our buzzsaw, even the chemical thrower. So now let's go over the chemical thrower. For this, you're going to need 2 wooden grips, 1 pressurized air tank, 1 heavy engineering block, 1 empty bucket, and a fluid pipe to give you your chemical thrower. Now, by itself, it does 2 hearts of damage depending on the burnable liquid you're going to be using. In our case, we're going to be using ourselves our biodiesel. When holding the biodiesel, we can see that we have it empty here. In the bottom right hand corner, it's going to give us our tank. It's telling us that it's empty right now, so we should just quickly fill this up with our jerry can. As you see here, we now have 2,000 buckets. It was 2,000 millibuckets, sorry. And that also tells us that it's got biodiesel in it. To fire it, you can just simply right click, but as you can see, mine's burning. When you get it, it might not actually be burning first. You can see that in the actual dial of fuel, there is a little sort of flame icon. If you hold shift and right click, you can see that I've now turned that flame off. This is most likely how you've got it once you've crafted it. But in the case that it has activated, or you need to activate it, you just hold shift and right click, and now the flame is going. If the flame isn't going, then you can just fire the liquid, and that will actually, if it lands on any enemies or, mobs of any kind, it's going to give them the flammable effect, meaning they will burn very, very easily. But obviously you want this on, and this will do 2 points of damage. Now, there are some upgrades when it comes to the chemical thrower, but how about we go over and turn it into a turret first? In order to make it into a turret, you're going to need a turntable. The turntable was made with treated wood planks, 2 iron ingots, 2 redstone dust, and some copper coils. This will give you 1 turntable. You're then going to need to get a precision scope. The precision scope is actually going to be an upgrade for the railgun, but we're going to be using it obviously to make our turret here. This is going to require 2 iron plates, 2 copper ingots, and 2 glass panes. This will give us just 1 precision scope. You're then going to need a new component inside of our engineer's workbench, and the component is going to require some insulating glass. The insulating glass is made with 2 glass, 1 green dye, and 2 iron grit, and you actually get 2 of these per craft. Then inside your Immersive Engineering workbench, you're going to need to get this specific crafting components blueprint. You're going to need 1 insulating glass and 1 copper plate in order to make ourselves a circuit board. To make this, and then you're going to throw it all together with the turntable, circuit board at the top, precision scope at the top. You're then going to need a chemical thrower in the center. You're going to need a metal barrel on the left here and a redstone engineering block on the right, and this will give us our chem thrower turret. It's a bit of a mouthful, this, but this is how it's created. Now, the chem thrower, when placing it down, it will actually place facing away from you. So we have this facing our way, of course, so we placed it around the back. On the left and right here, we have our power input point. We're going to be using creative power here, and then we have a lever. We'll show the lever off very shortly and what it does. We then also have a fluid input point on the back here. We are just pumping in an infinite amount of biodiesel, and then on the bottom as well, there is also a input of fluids. Now, the chem flow, we're going to be using it for destructive purposes, so we're going to be actually setting things on fire, but you can actually put things like water into it if you wanted to put out fire, if you wanted to for any reason. So now, looking inside the UI, when you place it down, it will give you your name and it is in blacklist mode. As well as that, it will show you how much fuel you have, or how much fluid of any type you have, and the power. You also have this little switch here, which is very similar to when you're holding the chemical thrower, which is obviously having the fluid ignite or not, if it is a fluid in here that can be ignited. Because you can actually put water in here to actually, spray water on other people if you wanted to. So at the moment, we've got it on blacklist and me, which means it's pretty much going to fire and hurt at everyone except for me. So let's demonstrate this with our creeper. Switching into normal mode here, if I place this down, you can see that nothing initially happens. And the reason this doesn't happen is you have to apply a redstone signal to your turret in order for it to actually fire, which is why we have the lever on the side. The lever must be on this little point here. I don't know why, but it does. You right click this and he's gone out of the zone. Let's place another one down and now he's on fire, but we need to actually ignite the fluid and now he is burning. And he's burning this one too. So you can see here that I have this wall box. This wall box is the complete perimeter of how far this will get. Obviously it does it in a complete square, but the wall is in the way. However, the red zone, which means it will actually hit your enemy, and the blue zone means that it can hit but it won't kill them just sort of right away. So if I place one of them here, you can see that it starts burning and they die pretty quick. Place one in the blue zone, it will start doing it, but it will only just sort of burn them a bit. He did run out of the way, unfortunately, but if he goes there, you can see that it is burning him, but it doesn't really kill him right away. Now there's a couple of things to know about the chemical thrower. One, the flames itself will not actually set any blocks on fire itself, such as wool. However, that even though the creeper is a 2-block high mob, it will only shoot at its feet. So if I place down the chemical thrower here, it will know that it's there, but it won't actually fire at it because it's aiming at its feet. If I push it just past it, it will start firing. A similar thing will go for when it's in the between blocks. It sort of depends, but it can sort of fire in the middle of blocks, as you can see here. It will fire in the middle, and when it's transferring between the two, sometimes it will set them alight. It's a little bit finicky in that respect, but pretty much you always want to have a clear opening. As well as that, the chemical thrower is actually capable of destroying some things in the world. It won't destroy signs or anything, but it will actually destroy item frames. It will destroy the frames themselves and what is in them. So if I place a few of these things down, you'll see that eventually things will start actually popping off the wall. It's a little bit strange, but it doesn't always work. There we go. As you can see, they've just popped off the side there. Now going inside to the actual UI, what you can do is set this in a couple of different ways. If we take it off blacklist, this is now going to be a whitelist, which means what we could do is you could set this to kill players, kill animals and neutrals. Since I'm a player, it's obviously aiming at me, but I'm in creative, of course. So as we have it here, we have it set to neutrals and animals. If I place this down, the sheep is not actually going to get hurt, but if I now said sheep in our whitelist, it will now start shooting at him because it only wants to kill sheep. Similarly to that, if we put it on blacklist and have sheep, it will not do anything. But then if we say got a different animal such as a pig, the pig would actually start getting shot at exclusively. Now you can put other players' names in here as well as you wish if you're playing on multiplayer. That way if you have it on blacklist and then on selected to players, it won't shoot these people. If you take it off blacklist, then it will shoot these people. Now the last thing to show off, if you didn't want to apply a redstone signal, something you can do is actually make a screwdriver. The screwdriver is just made with a treated wood stick and an iron rod, as you can see here. It's pretty much the last basic tool that you can get inside of this, and if you hold shift and right click on your turret, you can see the redstone controls are now inverted. So we have this on blacklisted for sheep, so we want to actually get a pig down. Just like this, you can see that it's now firing even though we don't have a redstone signal because we've inverted its power, so we don't need a lever anymore. Going back over to these machines over here, you can actually use the screwdriver to invert the redstone as well if you wanted to on this thing, so you could actually have the lever the right way when you want it on or off. Moving on, we need to go over some upgrades for our chemical thrower here. The first one being the focused nozzle. The focused nozzle is going to be using 4 steel ingots on the top and bottom here, 1 hopper and 2 fluid pipes, and this will give you 1 focus nozzle. As you can see here, it decreases the spread and slightly increases the range of the chemical thrower. So if you want to throw it further but you have to be more accurate, this is the one for you. Next, you're going to be able to get the multi-tank. The multi-tank is going to be using 2 large tanks we covered in the previous episode when we were covering over the buzzsaw and just drill. As well as that, you're going to need an iron mechanical component and a fluid pipe, and this will give you your multi-tank. As well as that, you can put a large tank directly into your chemical thrower. So here's one that I've made earlier. We've got inside of here a multi-tank and a focused nozzle, giving it a little bit more range. Now something to note, if you did want to put a regular tank in here, you can't have the multi-tank and the large tank. It's one or the other, as you see like this. Focus nozzle, although, is pretty much going to be a standard. So starting off, the chemical thrower can hold 2,000 millibuckets. We actually have water in here at the moment, and I'll show you why in a second. And then if you wanted to have the large tank, it will actually increase it to 4,000. But if you then have the multi-tank, we can see that I've now got this with water and 2 tanks of biodiesel. That is because I've pre-filled this multi-tank upgrade on this chemical thrower with those different fuels, which is why if you take the multi-tank off and then put it back on, it actually remembers what you've previously stored in here. So now looking inside here, we can see that we've got loads of different types. We can still turn it off or on. See, I don't know why, but we can turn water on if we wanted to. It wouldn't be on fire or anything, but as you can see, we can fire water. Then if we hold shift and scroll, it will then change to your next fuel. In this case is biodiesel, and then the next one is biodiesel as well. You can see that we are switching between tanks because the dial has moved slightly. Now in the previous tutorial when I covered the Revolver, I completely forgot to cover the upgrades, and I'm very sorry about that, so let's cover some of those now, and some of them are even used in order to make our Revolver turret. So starting off, we have the extended magazine. The extended magazine is created using steel ingots, 1 iron mechanical component, and 4 copper ingots, and as this says, it is going to increase the Revolver's magazine size, I believe by 6 bullets. Next we have the bayonet. This is created using an iron sword, 2 steel ingots, and 1 treated wood plank, and this will give us the bayonet. The bayonet is going to allow us to actually melee fight with our Revolver, and it will hit damage at the same damage as a iron sword. Following that, this isn't really an upgrade, but it's a faster way of reloading your bullets, and that is by using a speed revolver loader, or a revolver speed loader as it is actually called. This is going to require 1 steel ingot and 4 iron ingots, and you have to preload this. As you can see here in the bottom right, I can actually see how many rounds that are in the side. It's got its own UI. If I shift and right click, I can now fill this with whatever ones I would like, and then when I have this revolver here that is fired, of course, if I fire all of these are out, after the last one has been fired, you'll hear a little noise and it will reload automatically. Just like that, we've got more bullets. So you can bring a load of these along with you on your journeys. As you can see, it automatically empties out all of the previous shells, and you can just reload this over time if you wanted to. The last item is actually an upgrade, and this is the amplified electron tubes. This is going to require 3 vacuum tubes, 2 steel rods, and a piece of copper wire, and this is going to actually give you a bit of shock damage when hitting a target. So inside here, I've got ourselves a Revolver. It is loaded, it's got an extra magazine, it's all got dragon breath shells, and it also has the bayonet on it and a little bit of a shader as well, just for fun. Now obviously we can just shoot this if we wanted to as is, it's no different from anything else, but something to note is that I don't believe you can actually speed load this, but let's give it a go. Firing the last shot now. Fired. Can we reload? Looks like we can reload with the speed loader. That's pretty cool. Everything else with the extended magazine is if you hold shift right click, you can just refill it up however you would like. Then showing off the bayonet, I am left clicking here. We see we have the little sword icon come up as if you are fighting anything else with a regular sword. Putting this back inside, we're going to be switching some things over now. But something to mention is that you can actually save the contents of this magazine, very similar to the multi-tank on the chemical thrower. So we know that we have this completely full of dragon's breath. If I take that out, and then we'll get ourselves a new revolver here, you can see it's got absolutely no bullets in it whatsoever. If I now put the extended magazine in, you can see that it's automatically filled it up with the cartridges. However, it's done it in the Revolver. But if I take it out now, we can see that it's actually taken it out of the main chamber. It's a little bit strange, but it always goes for the magazine first. Now the only other thing we can do is put our amplified shock tubes on here, as you can see here, and this will just give it a little bit of a shock effect. You can't see anything visually, but you'll get this damaged on an enemy. So now let's cover the Revolver turret itself. It's made very similarly to the chemical thrower, as you can see here, but instead of using a metal tank, we have got the extended magazine. Besides that, everything else is the same, and the revolver's obviously in the center, and you will get one of these. Placing it down, it will always place down facing away of you, so take that into account, and it actually does have some input points if you want to input bullets itself onto a conveyor belt or pipes if you so wish. As well as that, you also have pipe powers on the side, and of course you can place a lever on this, or you can invert how it shoots, which what we are going to do. As you can see, it's now inverted. Right clicking on the inside, everything else regarding the blacklist is going to be the exact same. You can add names on the side here if you so wish, such as if I did sheep and then took it off and then had it as a whitelist, it would only shoot sheep, or if you had it on blacklist, then it only wouldn't shoot sheep. Now, you have your Dragon's Breath cartridges or any type of cartridges in the top here, and you can switch this between keep casings or expel casings. On expel casings, it's just going to dump the item on the floor, of course, or I think pretty much just delete it. And then if you do keep casings, it will actually obviously stay here and you can recraft it into bullets, so you can have it on a constant loop. So we have in here 64 Dragon Breath shells, and we have ourselves another pattern. It's a bit bigger on this because the Revolver acts a little bit strangely in my opinion. We're going to be using creepers again for this, and we're going to show off that everything inside of the red area and the sandstone section, that is pretty much things that are going to die on the spot. The red zone is again places they're going to die in pretty much one shot. As you can see here, they die pretty much instantly. Now the blue area is where the area that the mobs can actually get hit, but they're going to take quite a few more rounds and they can't always get hit by every single shot, as you see there. The first one actually missed, and there you go, it hit on the second shot. Now the green area is a very large area, and I don't really understand how it works, but essentially anything that's in this green area the revolver will fire at, but it will never ever hit. So if I place it here, you can see that the revolver is constantly firing, but it's just not hitting this target, so it will actually use up a lot of your bullets. Now it's a bit of a strange way of how it works, because obviously that corner is very far away to this side, but if I place it on the sandstone here, you can see that it's not firing at all. But if I do it all the way in this corner here, the revolver actually starts firing. So it's quite a large range that things have to actually get into before it actually starts taking damage. It's a little bit annoying, but unfortunately that's just the way it works. But just for demonstrations, you can see that that's pretty much just a one-shot kill. Anything here is just a one-shot kill, but that's using Dragon's Breath anyway. Well guys, that is everything I have to show off today when it comes to the turret and how to make biodiesel for the chemical thrower. And if this video helped you out in any way, shape or form, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, it would really help me out. But if you would like to know all the different types of bullets that can be used inside of this revolver turret here, then click the video on screen now, it will really help you out.